So we are going to make bread bowls because if you're going to make turkey chili, you got to make bread bowls. So we're going to start with 3 cups of warm water. To that, we are going to add 1.5 tablespoons of dry active yeast, and we're going to add half of a teaspoon of sugar. And that's going to give the yeast bacteria something to eat while we're blooming our yeast. So I'm going to mix this in. I want to get it all in there. Okay, and I'm going to set this aside, and we're going to let this bloom for 5 minutes. Okay, so our yeast has bloomed. It's nice and foamy. So to the bowl of our stand mixer, I'm going to add 3.5 cups of flour, which is about half the flour we're going to use. I'm going to add well, let me change that. I'm going to add, if I can find it, I'm going to add a tablespoon of salt. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of sugar. I'm going to add a tablespoon of milk, an egg white, 4 tablespoons of melted butter, and our yeast mixture. And I'm going to put all this in, and I'm going to mix it. Now, we've only added half of our flour. So let me move all these out of the way. And we will get started with mixing. And I hear my timer going off for the dinner rolls that I am making, which will be coming out in another video. So hold on one second. I will be back. I'm going to start this mixing. And while this is mixing, I'm going to slowly add in more flour until it starts to pull away from the side of the bowls. So the thing is you don't want to add too much flour. So the total amount of flour that we can use is 7 to 9 cups. There's 3.5 cups in here now. So we're going to get this all incorporated and then slowly add additional flour. All right, so you see how this dough is starting to pull away from the sides of my bowl? It's still pretty sticky though. So I'm gonna keep mixing it. I've got 6.5 cups of flour in here right now. I may put another ½ cup in and start just kneading it for a while to see how it does. A lot of times, instead of adding extra flour, because you want as little flour as possible in your rolls so that they're not tough. So it's better to add less flour, and you can always add flour later if you need it, than to add too much at first. So I'm going to add another ½ cup. That'll bring us up to 7 cups of flour. And I'm going to knead this for a while and see where we're at. Okay. So our dough is ready. We are going to go ahead and we're going to cover this. We're going to put it in an oiled bowl, and we're going to put it someplace warm to rise until it's doubled in size. It's going to take an hour, 45 minutes, like 45 minutes to an hour until it's doubled in size.
I actually have a bread proofing setting on my oven, so I'm going to go ahead and put it in there. If you don't have a bread proofing setting, you can just put it someplace warm in your kitchen or your house and cover it up until it's doubled in size.
Our bread bowl dough has doubled in size, so we are going to shape our bread bowls.
So I'm going to use a scale so that I can measure my bread bowls so that they're all even. I'm going to make 8 bread bowls, and then I'm going to shape them, and I'm going to cover them and put them in a warm place to rise until they're doubled in size. And then I'm going to bake them at 350 degrees for about 20 minutes until they're golden brown. Unfortunately, I lost the rest of my footage, so I don't have that, and I apologize.
Okay, so to make our turkey chili, we're going to start by cutting up the vegetables. So I cannot digest onions, but I can do onion powder. So I'm not going to cut any onions up for this, but I am going to do some onion powder when I add the spices to the chili. So we'll have the flavor, just not the problems. And I've washed my peppers. So chop up our garlic. All right, so let me get my chipotle out. I'm gonna take a whole one. All right, let me get this cleaned up a little bit. I have this jalapeno out because I'm going to cut it as a topping, but let me get myself cleaned up and then we're gonna start cooking down our vegetables. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add a little bit of olive oil to our pan. And I'm gonna start heating that up until it is shimmering. Okay. So we have our peppers in here. We're gonna turn our heat down. And we're gonna cook these just until they are tender. About 5 minutes. We are also going to add in a can of diced green chilies. And I'm going to add the water that's in them as well, because that will help scrape up the fond that's at the bottom of the pan as this stuff cooks down. Okay, so got my vegetables starting to cook down, and I almost forgot my onion powder. Okay, so I'm gonna add my spices in now because I want them to bloom in the oil, get a nice depth. So I have 4 tablespoons of chili powder, a tablespoon of cumin, I have a teaspoon of oregano. I have a teaspoon of onion powder. And my secret ingredient, I have a tablespoon of dark cocoa powder. And what that's going to do is really add a depth of flavor to this chili. So, I'm going to go ahead and keep cooking these down. And I will be back when we're ready to move on to the next step. I almost forgot, I also want to add in a teaspoon of smoked paprika. Okay, now we are going to slowly add our ground turkey. So you can do beef with this recipe, or you can do turkey. I have the 85% fat turkey, and I'm just going to add in 1 pound at a time because I don't want it to reduce the temperature too much. And then as I add it in, I'm going to go ahead and stir it so that it's nice and coated in all of those yummy spices. And I'm going to do a total of 3 pounds, because I'm making a big batch, of the meat. Okay, I'm going to slowly add the next pound in. Being sure not to lower the temperature. Okay, we're going to put our last pound in. Okay, so we have cooked this for quite a while. The meat is all cooked all the way through. Now I'm going to add in 2 14-ounce cans of fire roast diced tomatoes. Actually, they're 14.5-ounce cans. And a 20-ounce can of regular diced tomatoes. So I am making a big batch, which if you're going to make chili, you may as well make a big batch because it's way better the next day. And then I'm going to add a pint of tomato puree. This is tomato sauce out of my garden. And beans. I like a lot of beans, so I'm going to add 2 cans of black beans that have been drained and rinsed. I'm going to add a can of chili beans that have been drained, and I'm going to add another can of chili beans that have not been drained because I want that flavor in there. Gonna get all this mixed together. And I think I'm gonna add another can of chili beans. One more can of chili beans. And then we're just going to let this simmer, covered for about an hour. And then I'll take the lid off and we will simmer it uncovered for another hour to 45 minutes to an hour. And I like to serve this with all the fixins. So some chopped up jalapeno, some cheddar cheese, some shredded cheese, some avocado, some sour cream. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and let this simmer. Let me cover it up. And I will bring you guys back in about an hour to show you, because it's going to be pretty watery in about an hour, but that's why we're going to take the lid off and let it simmer for 45 minutes to an hour after that. All right, guys, this is what our chili turned out. So it is delicious. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider subscribing to my channel. Give me a thumbs up, which is a like on YouTube. And if you want to get notified every time I upload a new video, go ahead and hit that bell notification and you'll be notified. Thanks, guys. See you later. Bye.